What's going on, everybody? My name is Joe Malone, and welcome back to another episode of the Lethal Lifestyle Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Lethality University, which I'm super pumped to be talking about because we are about to finally launch, and I can't tell you guys, you've got some serious, awesome stuff coming your way. We're talking group membership discounts, training, everything that you're ever going to need, plus so much more to keep your family safe against violence and violent crime. So head on over to joemalonetraining.com and then check out the Lethality University, where you will learn how to be a deadly human being capable of preserving great peace within society. I had to think about what I was going to say there. All right, so today's episode. Over the weekend, I was with my family at a farmer's market. And this is something I see many people always talk about. They ask me about it at every single class I ever teach with concealed carry. And that is gun-free zones. In Illinois, for example, you cannot carry a concealed firearm in a public event. So something that requires a permit like a farmer's market, you're technically not supposed to be carrying a firearm with you there. Reason being, all sorts of bullshit justification, I'm sure. They say it's a public place, there's kids around, blah, 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 blah. So, do you carry in a gun-free zone? Now, I'm going to tell you all that I don't advocate for you to ever break the law. That's not what this episode is going to be about. What this episode is simply about is just me telling you all what I have done in the past, not saying whether I currently do it or not, but what I've done in the past in order to ensure that my family is as safe as possible. Because let's be real, in these gun-free zones, you're at more risk than anywhere else. That literally, when Sandy Hook went down, and such an unfortunate circumstance, when those kids were killed, the NRA director at the time came out and he said, you gun-free zone people are literally saying, come here and nobody will stop you, to these active shooters, these mass violence people. And it's so true. You are going to be more at risk in an area where weapons are being prohibited and restricted, and there's only 10 people, if that are designated to protect the entire place. The entire whole entity with thousands of people, I think they had 3 police officers there over the weekend. No fault of the town, right? That's not their thing at all. I'm just saying that's the ratio that we're looking at. So why wouldn't you want somebody like me, a special operations Marine, who has multiple combat deployments, who teaches this stuff regularly? Why wouldn't you want somebody like myself to have a weapon with me so that I could stop some sort of an active assailant of some kind, whether it's shooting, stabbing, a vehicle plowing through the entire group of people? So what do? I can tell you that in the past, I have ignored this. Well, let's take a step back. So what is a gun-free zone? A gun-free zone is a place where you're not allowed to carry a weapon, either openly or concealed. I speak a lot from the context of Illinois because that's the state where I live. So you cannot carry a weapon in the vicinity of the designated areas in the state of Illinois. Otherwise, you can be charged with a misdemeanor. Now, keep that in mind. It is a misdemeanor charge. So quid pro quo. Is the juice going to really be worth the squeeze? Now, there could be other offenses added on, especially for things like being in a school, but we'll dive into that here in just a little bit. But a couple of common examples, like I said, are schools, public places, any sort of judiciary, legislative, or executive type of building. In Illinois, there's a really interesting law. 51% of sales, if they were derived from alcohol in the last 90 days, you're not allowed to carry a gun there. So bars that sell food, etc. However, it's up to the owner at that point to put a very specific sign up in that window. Otherwise, it's not your responsibility to be in charge of that. All right, so gun-free zones, that's what they are. Do you carry a weapon in a gun-free zone? So what I could tell you is that I'm always going to balance out, hey, is the chance of me possibly needing to use one slightly greater than not having to use one? Or what are the legal repercussions going to be? If it's something like a school, I usually err on the side of caution just because I don't want any sort of additional charges to possibly be brought against me. But if it's something like a farmer's market or a public event like a fair or even a concert, like we have some concerts in the local town that I live in, I'm definitely going to be bringing a gun with me. And there's a lot of reasons why. One is just, I don't even want cops to have guns if I don't have a gun. That's how much more proficient that I, as an individual, am based off my experience and my background. I know that I am a better more capable firearms handler, especially in a high stress situation, than 99.99% of police officers out there. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest in the world by any means, but I know for a fact that I am way better than almost all police officers out there based off my experience and my background, which also brings me to another point where I don't understand why certain people with backgrounds like mine can't get the ability to carry a weapon with them everywhere throughout the country. Retired law enforcement can do that, but yet special operations personnel, even Delta Force guys, can't do that unless we get commissioned or ordained, or I forget what the word is. You know what that word is when you become an honorable cop? Yeah, it's like deputized, but it's like auxiliary. And deputized is an auxiliary police officer. So that's the first reason why the cops are going to want me to have it. Two is because the people are going to want me to have it. My family wants me to have it. You want me there if there's an active shooter incident, plain and simple. Nobody else in the world is going to be more capable of responding to this type of threat than somebody with my type of background. So it's a public safety matter that I actually do carry my gun with me. So now, how does this apply to you and these gun-free zones? You have to ask yourself a couple of really key critical questions. One, how competent are you with your weapon system? If you just took a concealed carry class once and never did anything else to follow up, then you are not a competent concealed carry holder, my friend. You're just not. And that's okay. The point is for you to get there, you need to take more training. You need to educate yourself. I don't understand why people get so egomaniacal, especially when it comes to carrying a gun with them, because they feel like they're macho enough or whatever it is. Take more training. You don't just take a biology class and declare to be a doctor and start solving world medicinal problems. So why do people get so up in arms about the fact that you took one class or maybe even a couple of follow-on courses? That doesn't mean that you're that proficient with a gun, my friend. You need to constantly be training and rehearsing and educating yourself all the time, every single week. I mean, day in and day out if you really want to be that good. But you have to ask yourself, and you have to be real with yourself, how capable and competent are you to actually put an end to this type of a threat? And I think a really great example, some drills that you could run throughout your range experience would be something like the Bill drill. From the concealed carry position, you put 6 shots on target at 10 yards within a defined space, the FBI QT target, which is actually a little bit too big if you ask me, but that's a good place to start. Another drill would be a hostage rescue drill where you have 2 targets, one with the hostage face and then the criminal's face. From the concealed carry draw, under 1.5 seconds, a single shot to the face from 7 yards away. That's another really good place to start. And then the Elijah Dickens drill, 40 yards away, 11 shots, and you have to score 8 out of 11 within the B-mod, the body modification target, in order to pass, because that's what Elijah Dickens did in the Indiana Mall, which, by the way, was a gun-free zone, a prohibited area for carrying weapons, but no charges were brought against him. So this is something also to keep in mind. There was a bar not too far from my house, known to be a biker bar, 3 a.m. Some criminals ran up in there and they tried robbing the place. A patron who was sitting at the bar at 3 a.m., probably drinking, probably a gun not allowed establishment because of the amount of alcohol sales that they have, and he ended up killing one of the guys, wounding the other, and no charges were brought against him. So you have to ask yourself, what is the point of these gun-free zones? Are they really truly being enforced? And I think it's going to depend upon the state that you're in and really the county or the township and the demographic of that specific area. Something tells me that if you bring a gun into a prohibited area and have to use it in self-defense in an area like Chicago, if you fit a certain demographic like myself, unfortunately, because everything seems to be race-driven and sexually oriented driven these days. I'm a white heterosexual man, so I would probably have charges brought against me. Now, when you look at other instances that have taken place recently in the city, no charges were brought against those people, and it kind of goes against all logic when you look at how the law is actually written. So you need to ask yourself a couple of key critical questions. One, what is the severity of the punishment if you are caught? You shouldn't get caught because you should be properly concealing, but just in case, if something did happen, how severe is that punishment going to be? Is it a misdemeanor? They're going to take your gun away and they're going to destroy it in a lot of places, no matter what, even if it is a misdemeanor charge. And is it really worth getting arrested over? Two is how capable are you in actually using that weapon system in said event? If you are not truly capable and competent and confident in carrying that gun and using it in something like an active shooter situation or an attempted kidnapping, if you can't discern when you're able to use justified deadly force and be very aware of what's before and behind your target, then you shouldn't be carrying it in one of these gun-free zones. And then lastly, what's the benefit? Like, what are you going to provide in terms of a benefit to the people around you? Are you just going to be flailing a bunch of gunshots and end up killing some innocent kid? Or are you actually going to be capable of stopping that threat? And then how do we know if we're capable of carrying in these areas? Well, one, your level of confidence based off your experience, and then your skill set. So test yourself with those drills that I just told you to test yourself with in order to see where you actually are at. It's very important that you can get those shots off within the allotted time frame from those distances. So go ahead, run yourself the Bill drill, run yourself a hostage rescue drill, and then run yourself that Elijah Dickens drill so you can at least get a baseline to identify where your skills and proficiency is located. Now, the other last thing I want to talk to you all about today when it comes to carrying a weapon in a gun-free zone, a weapons prohibited zone, is that you had better stay sharp mentally, because if you completely disregard these gun-free zones, like I did at one point in my life, it's going to catch up to you. And the story that I'm going to share with you all about this is that I was working in a Chicago private school. It was a private charter school that received public funding. It was in a shitty neighborhood, and it's a shitty school. It's a shitty administration. They made me physically sick to my core. I worked with them for about a year, put together this amazing school safety security program where we had firefighters, paramedics, veterans, members of the local community, police officers, and they tore it all apart. Made me physically sick how their egos were literally putting their students at risk. And I see this all across the country, by the way. Your kid's school probably does the same thing. If it's a public school, they definitely do. If it's a private school, good chance that they do. Anyways, I carried my gun with me inside that school day in and day out. Why? Because it was in a shitty neighborhood and the school was not safe and my life was definitely at risk. So I wore it on me, plus it was also in the contract. However, because I was carrying a gun into school every day, I started to completely disregard all gun-free zones. And I unfortunately ended up carrying that gun with me in my bag into the airport, got arrested. It's the one time TSA actually finally found something of mine, which there's been hundreds of times where they didn't. And the Chicago police had to arrest me. Now, fortunately, they didn't press charges against me, but I still had to be booked, still had to be charged. It was a misdemeanor, Class A. My gun was confiscated. They did destroy it. However, in court, all charges were dropped because those cops were really awesome people. They didn't even want to do it to me. And that also brings up another point where if you're ever at TSA and you realize, oh man, I think I just got busted with a gun in my bag, you can grab that bag and run out of there. A guy actually did it in Atlanta a few months after I got busted. And I really wish I would have done the same, because TSA are not police officers. They cannot chase you. They cannot arrest you. All they could do is spot and identify, and then they have to call the actual police to come and do that job. So grab your bag, run the hell out of there, and don't look back. They can't press charges against you if they can't catch you there at that scene with the evidence in hand. So just a little tidbit for you all. Now, I digress to stay sharp. Don't forget that you have it with you. Don't let your gun get so comfortable when you're carrying it that you don't even recognize it's there. That is a pretty dangerous thing to do. You'll probably leave it on the toilet somewhere, or in your car, or even in your bag like I do, or I did whenever I was going through the airport. So do you carry in a gun-free zone? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. Did you know any of this information? Do you do anything differently? The goal is to always keep ourselves and our loved ones as safe as possible. And if you want to know how to keep yourself and your loved ones as safe as possible inside or outside of the home, then join the Lethality University. These are the types of topics that we're going to start covering now that we're launching the Home Defense Series. That's the first, most baseline platform of training. I want you to know how to secure your home. I want your family to know how to secure the home. They become the home security. The home doesn't secure them from the world. They secure the home from the world. Aside from that, though, we're going to talk about things like carrying in gun-free zones, being out in public, travel safety, driving, heading off to college, all sorts of different types of topics. It's all going to be designed around one thing, keeping you and your loved ones safe. Lethal You, go to joemalonetraining.com and check out the Lethality University. We've also got a major partnership that we're getting ready to officially announce. I'm just going to give you guys a sneak preview right now of what that is, and that's with the USCCA. I use it. I highly recommend that you do. But we're about to get a partnership agreement with them where you, as a USCCA member, as a Lethal U member, if you join the USCCA, or if you're already a member and you join Lethal U, you will get access to their elite level for only a fraction of the cost. So now you will have access to self-defense, insurance, and liability coverage, all the USCCA training materials, plus you'll get to work with me in the Lethality University on all the unique topics that are not covered by the USCCA. We're giving you an arsenal of training and education and knowledge that you could use so that you absolutely 100% will become the person capable of defending your loved ones and each other in society against these types of violent, unfortunate incidents and these people who are just trying to inflict as much harm as possible. There's nothing but good that can come out of it, and it is so freaking cheap that it's absolutely astonishing. It makes you question the value of it, but I guarantee you, if you're not satisfied within 90 days, I'll give you all your money back, and I'll work with you until the end of time. I really don't care. That's my mission in life, is to help you all. So check it out, joemalonetraining.com. The sponsor of the Lethal Lifestyle Podcast is the Lethality University, Lethal U, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit me up with any topics that you want me to discuss here. We release these episodes every Monday. Look forward to hear from you all. Take care.